The first two steps in the gamification design framework are to define your business objectives and to delineate your target behaviors. Business objectives can be just about anything. It's the goals that you want your gamified system to accomplish. So this can't be something like get people to accumulate points and badges. That's the way the system works. That might be an intermediate step that the system puts in front of the user. But ultimately, the badges are only valuable to the company if they're part of some process that, say, gets more people to buy products or gets more customers to post feedback on the company's website. Whatever the goal is, the steps in the gamified system are stepping stones to something else. So business objectives is about what is this for? And here I talk about it in terms of business objectives, but you can look at it more broadly if this is a gamified system that's, for example, for something like education or health or some sort of behavior change where it might not be for a direct business purpose. The question is, what are the ultimate goals? What will define whether this gamified system is a success or a failure? So let's think about an example. What would be some of the goals of Foursquare, the social location service that I introduced you to earlier? And I gave some examples why Foursquare wanted to gamify or might have wanted to gamify its site in comparison to Dodgeball, the predecessor service that had many of the same basic structures in it for the service, but that didn't have the same rich variety of gamified elements to engage people. So think about what are some of the things that Foursquare might want to try to do with gamification. Some of those would be the ones that I talked about earlier, the idea about getting to scale and so forth. Here's a couple other concrete examples based on things that Foursquare actually put into its gamified system. The first is social sharing, and this is directly related to the core challenge that they face, as I talked about, getting people to make a habit of checking in. And not just checking in, but posting information about the places that they go to. If Foursquare can get enough people to put enough rich socially and geographically contextual data into their database, they'll have something that may be really valuable. But how to get people to do it? And so the game mechanics in Foursquare, here's the core check-in structure. The notion of seeing who the mayor is, the notion of seeing who your friends are that are involved, the notion of seeing the tips that people leave, and so forth. All of that makes that sharing more appealing, makes you more likely to check in a location, which drives the business value for Foursquare. The business objective is get check-ins and get information about those locations in the check-ins, because that ultimately is a way of Foursquare to achieve its overall business goal, which is to be a profitable, successful company. Here's another thing, though, that Foursquare does within the same gamified system. If you are the mayor of a location, you may get coupons, discounts, just for you. And that's about something different. If you're a mayor, then you're already someone who's checking in. You're checking in a lot. You're an active user of the system. What's the business value that you have for Foursquare and potentially for its advertising and marketing partners? Well, the value there is that if you're the mayor, you're the most common visitor to that location. That suggests that you're a pretty hardcore customer of that location. You are very likely what marketers call an influencer. You are someone who other people will look to for advice. If you like a certain brand or a certain store or a certain product, then others will take their cue from you. You've reached that level where your buying decisions influence a large number of other people. And companies very aggressively today go after these influencers, try and woo them with various gifts and so forth, knowing that their recommendations are more authentic than the company itself saying something is great. So the mayors are potentially influencers, and Foursquare and its partners, by offering these various kinds of coupons, here's one where you get a 30% discount at this store, that's a form of influencer marketing. Different business objective than social sharing, which is about habit formation for the mass of users, but another business goal that would be part of the process for Foursquare if they were sitting down and thinking about designing their gamified system. So how do you catalog effectively your business goals for a gamified system? Here are a few concrete steps to take. The first is make a list. What are all the business goals or other goals that I want this gamified system to achieve? List everything you can think of and be as concrete and specific as possible. Next, rank the list. What's the number one most important goal? What's number two after that? Figure out the hierarchy of which is more important than others and think about trade-offs. It might be that you have 10 different business goals, but some of them are in conflict. That's not unusual. If you decide what the ranking is, then you can start to think about which you might want to trade off against the others and which is really important to you. And once you've done that, you've got a ranking. The next step is cut out the ones that are not really your business objectives. If something is just a means, if it's a stepping stone, and this is where most of the game elements, if not all of the game elements, will appear, collecting badges is not a business objective in the vast majority of cases. It's a means to an end of some other set of business objectives. If it's not, then you've got a problem. Then you're getting hung up on the game for its own sake without necessarily thinking about how it benefits you as an organization. And gamification, again, is about achieving some benefit. Now, ideally, the user's benefit, the player's benefit, is totally congruent with the organization's benefit. Again, as I've said a number of times, the goal is not to come up with some situation where the user is manipulated surreptitiously to do what the company wants and not what they want. But in thinking about this from the side of the designer, the organization creating the gamified system, you have to focus first on what your objectives are. And then using the human-centric, player-centric kinds of notions that I've talked about, make sure that what you're doing is also in the interest of the player. All right, so second step in this process is get rid of everything that's not an ultimate business objective that would be valuable in and of itself, but instead is just a stepping stone. And finally, justify them. For each of the remaining objectives on your list, come up with a short explanation about why that is your business objective. Why is that something that you want the gamified system to achieve? By doing this process, you will not only generate a list, but you'll start to see some of the dependencies, some of the interrelationships between higher and lower level structures and between different parts of the gamified system, which are things that need to be resolved and play tested out through the process as the system is designed. That's step one, defining objectives. Step two is delineate target behaviors. So what are target behaviors? Those are the things that you want users to do. First point is they should be as specific as possible. I want customers to redeem more coupons for half off on Bounty paper towels. That's a particular marketing goal that you might want to use a gamified system for. Or I want to encourage people to try out my services, which otherwise they aren't familiar with. Or I want to find the best people to hire for this job by distinguishing people's skills and ability at this kind of task. Whatever it is, be as specific as possible about why you are trying to gamify something. Second is figure out what are the success metrics, or I talked about this term before, what are the win states in gamer terms for achieving the goals of this gamified system. In other words, what things would tell you that this gamification project was a success? What will let you decide that you've achieved the goals? And obviously it should be related to what the behaviors are. But sometimes the behaviors may be a set of activities which may be in conflict with other kinds of goals, or may be in conflict with other kinds of behaviors on the list. Figuring out what the success metrics are. What are the decision points that tell you that this has achieved its goals will, similarly to the business objectives, allow for some ranking and some trade-off. And finally, what are the analytics? What are the ways of measuring the path towards those success metrics or those win states by virtue of the activity on those target behaviors. There are a whole variety of different analytics that different companies use in different areas. Some of the most developed ones are in areas like marketing, but your gamified system may have a different set of analytics depending on the way it's structured. Here's a few examples of common analytics that are used in games, in particular social games, and also in marketing contexts. The first one is called DAU over MAU. DAU stands for daily average users, MAU stands for monthly average users. And this is just a ratio of these two numbers. The first one is, what is the average number of people who visit your site on any given day? So this is typically something that's used for social games by companies like Zynga and Playdom and PopCap and so forth. They want to see how often people come back. If you have a game that gets people to come back and check in every day, then your daily numbers are going to be pretty typical of your numbers over a longer time scale. But if the game is not something that gets people to play frequently, then the ratio will be different. And that's why we put here the denominator of MAU. MAU is during the course of a given month, what's the total average number of players who come to your site? MAU will typically be a bigger number because typically you might say in the past month there were, say, 10 million people who visited my website across the entire month. Many of them, though, came back many times. We're talking about actual users, not total number of visits. So maybe 10 million distinct people came to my website in the course of a given month. But every day, the average day in that month was only 2 million visitors. That's because lots of people didn't visit every single day, but visited at least one time during the month. The ratio of DAU to MAU. So in that case, it would be 2 million daily average users, the average number of people who came to my site during the course of that month, over 10 million monthly average users. In an average month, a total of 10 million people. This would be 2 over 10, which is clearly 20%, 0.2. That ratio tells you how engaging your site is. If it's higher, if it's closer to 1 being every single user comes back every day of the month, then you have a more engaging site. People come back more frequently. There's richer engagement. They are not just showing up, checking something out, and then leaving and not coming back. The lower the DAU-MAU ratio, the more it is that people are coming sporadically, or again, they're coming a few times and then abandoning, indicators of a less engaging site. The second metric or analytic that's often used is called virality. This has to do with people referring their friends to go play the game or use the site. The ratio, the rate at which people tell other people and those other people come to the site thanks to those pointers tells you how viral the application is. If one person can tell 20 or 50 or 100 other people, and then those people themselves tell that same number of other people, very quickly you get this explosive level of growth. And that's what we've seen with some of the very successful viral applications recently, things like Pinterest, as well as some of the social games like the Zynga games. A few people started using them, and then they told a lot of friends, and those friends told a lot of friends, and suddenly there was a huge user base. Virality mentions how fast that's happening. And finally, something that many gamified sites look to is the scope of the virtual economy. How much activity is happening? If we have a point system, how many points get given out each month? How many badges get earned? How many levels do people gain? And if we track that over time, we can see the level of usage of interaction and engagement with the site, and also what people are doing. Are people predominantly earning points? Are they at the bottom of the leveling curve or the top of the leveling curve? What does the pattern of usage look like? All of that tells us a lot about how the system is operating. So defining out what those metrics are that you're going to collect is an important part of defining a gamified site. So that gives you a basis for the first 2 steps in the design process, which is the context setting of understanding basically what it is you want to do with this gamification system.